Food is food, except for when it's not food. Though what really qualifies it as not food? Well, when we look at any of these. China's traditional cuisine is filled with the weird and the wonderful, ones that you'll never see on a Western dinner plate, except for a few obscure places. Why would someone intentionally make a food item rotten before you eat it? Find out the answer by sticking till the end. Here are the most unusual foods that only exist in China. Number 10. Rabbit heads. We've all heard that a rabbit's foot is lucky, and maybe that's because it's the only rabbit body part yet to be eaten in Chinese food markets. All else appears to be fair game as far as food goes, even down to serving up actual rabbit heads as a tasty snack. Believe it or not, these gruesome decapitated snacks are now a rare delicacy in the food markets of China. There was once a time you could find these dotted all over the streets of Beijing food stalls, but today, cooked rabbit head can be found mainly in the southwestern city of Chengdu, where these so-called treats are a specialty. Because a cute little bunny's head on a stick isn't quite gross enough as it is, street cooks in Chengdu like to, quite literally, spice this snack up a little by marinating the heads in a choice of 5-spice powder or either stewed in chili and Sichuan pepper. You'd assume stewing the rabbit heads in such strong stuff was to disguise the revolting flavor, but it doesn't look like there's much meat to even be eaten here in the first place. The price for one greased-up chili rabbit head? About $1.25. Pretty good deal if you ask me. Although I feel bad for the poor bunny. Number 9. Starfish on a stick. For those of you who grew up watching SpongeBob, look away now as this will probably be the most disturbing thing you'll ever see. Rest in peace, Patrick. Of all the fish in the sea, the humble starfish is not exactly the first thing that springs to mind when you picture a tasty seafood dish. Putting the adorable image of Patrick's star aside for a minute, real-life starfish don't seem as if they'd be all that nice to eat. If you're traveling through the northern parts of China, though, expect to see lots of locals tucking into some starfish on a stick. The street food stalls in Wang Fujing's night market in Beijing offer up skewered starfish for just $3.75. And if you ever wanted to know what they taste like, well, according to crazy travel foodies, they can range from creamy, salty, bitter, and crunchy. Number 8. Grilled beef PUPA. I'm really not sure what it is with the Chinese cuisine and insects, but it seems that their motto is, if it can fly, it can fry. Because another disgusting food item on our list is deeply fried bees, or to be more specific, bee pupae. Pupae are the stage in between larvae and adulthood in insects, so essentially this dish should be called teenage bees in batter. Whether you want to sample deep-fried bee pupae in the form of skewered snacks or in the bowls of the stuff, food stalls in the Chinese province of Yunnan is the best place for them. As odd and kinda gross as it might seem, battered bee pupae don't taste half as bad as they look according to tourists who have frequented the insect snack stalls. Since they're so heavily fried and battered during the cooking process, the end result is fairly tasteless other than a salty flavor with a crispy texture. In other words, quite similar to popcorn, but don't expect to see these being served in your local cinema soon. Number 7. Tuna eyeballs. Ew. Say what you want about the oddities of Chinese cuisine, but you can't deny that they are resourceful. When it comes to animal body parts, almost any leftovers are considered fair game, as evidenced by this appetizing dish of tuna eyeballs. Second only to perhaps animal genitals in the contest for weirdest leftover, we can make edible fish eyes seem to be a popular weird dish on the streets of Beijing, and tuna eyeballs in particular are considered a delicacy in both China and Japan. Tuna eyeballs are normally served on a bed of fish fat and severed muscles from around the eye. So for both gross factor and value for money, an adventurous foodie tourist can really get their money's worth. If you can stomach it, the actual eyeball is said to resemble squid in both taste and texture. And when you consider the fact that most people wouldn't even dare touch squid with a long pole, this description doesn't do much to lure in tourists. Number 6. Stinky tofu. Most people aren't a fan of regular tofu. And if you're one of those people, it's probably a good idea to skip this entry. Yet another bizarre food favorite in the streets of Beijing is tofu that has been fermented, or stinky tofu, as it has been affectionately named by the locals. Quite unexpectedly, stinky tofu is the type of street grub you can usually smell way before you can even see it. So we're all going to straight up assume that the people who like eating this stuff have little to no sense of smell at all. As its name suggests, stinky tofu is created using the disgusting process of smoking tofu cubes in a pungent brine mixture of fermented milk. Locals then have the agony of choice on how they prefer their stinky tofu eaten: steamed, cold, or the most popular option, have the tofu deep fried. Oddly, the taste of stinky tofu is nowhere near as strong as its smell. although I personally am not ready to test that claim out. Number 5. Pig brains. When stinky tofu isn't on the menu, the next best thing on the street food menu, and by that I mean the next disgusting, is often animal brains. Chinese street vendors have been known to sell all kinds of animal brains, from goat to rabbit and even monkey. But as far as we know, the brains of pigs appear to be the most popular dish. Oh man, China is weird. Luckily for any extreme foodies out there, and for people fantasizing how it's like to be Hannibal Lecter, sampling pig brains in China leaves you open to a lot of options. Depending on where you go in China, pig brains can be served up to you sautéed, fried, or boiled as part of a hot pot stew. The latter serving suggestion seems to be the most popular way to enjoy pig brains, boiled in a stew of vegetables and other meats, presumably the more normal parts of a pig. Number 4! Deep-fried tarantulas. Tasty. Seriously, there's no amount of money you could offer me that would even make me consider putting one of these hairy, creepy crawlies anywhere near my mouth. And yet people every day put these things in their mouth and happily crunch away. And this is nothing more than an afternoon snack on the streets of China, mind you. Street vendors across the country are well stocked in deep-fried insects and other nasties, but Hangzhou markets in particular are where you can expect to find this. Your worst nightmares stunned, fried, and turned into the devil's own lollipop. The Canadian couple Nick and Doris behind the travel blogs Goats on the Road admitted that these hairy beasts were so massive that they were scared to even take a photo of them. You know, tarantulas are simply not right for human consumption when they're still intense to look at dead. There is a saying about Chinese taste along the lines of, we eat anything and everything on 4 legs, except the table and chairs. They've clearly since relaxed the rules on how many legs they're willing to eat and how terrifying the dish can possibly be. Either that or they count this thing as 2 servings. Number 3. Drunken shrimp. This next entry is a standout on this list. Despite how weird most of the food here is, this is the only one that requires the poor creature to still be alive when you're eating them. This bizarre drunken shrimp dish, as its name suggests, involves the shrimp being doused in alcohol before a curious diner comes along and is encouraged to bite the heads off before eating them alive. Unsurprisingly, this is considered to be one of the coolest snack foods in China. Drunken shrimp is served in both restaurants and by street vendors across the country. But however this is prepared for you, this is a dish served cold. A bowl is usually filled about halfway with Chinese baijiu liquor before a handful of live freshwater shrimp are immersed in the alcohol. Another bowl is then placed on top, covering the dish while the shrimp jump about and become more and more sluggish as the alcohol hits them. The dish is usually ready to eat when the shrimp appear drunk enough to eat. Now it's time for today's best pick. Today's best pick is a dish that has the potential of biting you first before you cook it. What mouth-watering dish am I talking about? Find out next with number 2. Roasted alligator. Yes, someone had the bright idea to skin an alligator from the neck down and roast the entire animal whole, and they weren't from Florida. Not entirely appetizing to look at, but looking at the previous entries on this list, this one looks the most palatable. Weird food such as this can surely be found in only China, am I right? Well, you might be surprised that you can actually find this dish in your neck of the woods. Alligator meat can be readily bought in Louisiana. If you don't want to buy one, you can always catch them out in the wild. A whole array of Cajun recipes center around this cold-blooded reptile. One of them is what you see here, roasted whole alligator. These days you can find alligator meat in all shapes and forms. Remember my friend that I told you about on the previous list? The one who loves blood cakes? Well, he also swears on alligator sausages. I will say, buddy, I love you to death, but I personally have a thing for not eating animals that could have, given the chance, had me for dinner as well. You do you, though. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on, guys, what's up with that? Can you guys please hit the subscribe button? You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Number 1. 1,000-year eggs. In spite of the rather off-putting name, this dish doesn't actually consist of 1,000-year-old eggs, as if that makes a difference. Instead, these eggs are only made to look as if they've been hanging around for a whole millennium. I guess that makes it okay. I guess. The 1,000-year-old eggs, or paidan as they're known locally, are a delicacy on the streets of Shanghai, and are specially preserved to give them that appetizing shade of dark green. These are duck eggs which are coated in lime and ash, preserved in clay, and buried underground for around 3 months. The result? Black eggs with a jelly-like yolk, the stench of cheese and death, and the flavor of rancid vinegar. Oh, yum. So why would the Chinese wish to purposefully create the appearance of rotten eggs for a dish they're hoping to sell to people with taste buds? Well, apparently eating these eggs in this condition is thought to bring diners good luck, which is why the dish is popular around the Chinese New Year. According to some strong-stomached tourists, the dish doesn't taste half bad either, once you get past the faint smell of ammonia and the egg's rubbery texture. Have you tried any of these, yummy gastronomic treats? Let us know down below in the comments. Also, make sure to check out the channel's other amazing videos, and definitely more palatable videos. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Later, everybody!